Okay, so hi Gary, thanks for spending some time just to talk about your parents as they're part of the Windrush generation and your experience of that and the story of that and probably your opinions of that as well and you know what you saw from a child's viewpoint as you were growing up and their experience. So perhaps we can start with where your parents came from.
My parents came from Jamaica. Um, they came from the northern part of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
So, country, Westmoreland, that area.
Okay, I've heard of Westmoreland for some reason, so there must be a few people from there.
Yeah, Westmoreland is very famous, you know, very famous, very famous place. I don't
Uh-huh.
know why. Maybe it's probably the ganja. They're famous for ganja up in Westmoreland. A lot of ganja farmers up there. So maybe it's because of the ganja farming. Who knows?
Mm, who knows? Yes, who knows? So I know a private school in the Caribbean called Westmoreland as well, so my memory might
Oh,
kind of confused
very nice up there.
also. So that's good. So they both came from the same area.
Basically, yes.
Yes, wow. And did they know each other before they came, or did they meet in when they came to the
No,
UK?
they knew each other before they came.
Were they a couple or they were just friends, or do you know?
I think they married in the West Indies and came here.
Okay, they came as a
Yeah,
couple.
I think so. Yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah. Because a lot of people did that when they married and came abroad and then sent for, you know, my dad came first and then my mum came after. That usual
Uh-huh.
thing.
Yes. So he came and found lodgings and then sent.
That's right. He
Yeah.
came and he found um he lodged he came for to find his brother. His brother came first. His brother died. My uncle died,
Oh,
and we don't know where he's buried.
oh, I'm sorry. Goodness.
So that's one thing we got to find out. We just got the letter from England. Somebody wrote home for on his behalf, and my dad came to look for the grave and couldn't find it.
Goodness.
That guy was an evangelist,
Mm-hmm.
and the story goes that God told him not to come, but his wife insisted that he came to England and give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
So he
Mm-hmm.
came in 50 something
Mm-hmm.
and he came to England, and one day he was having a bath and he collapsed and he died. And when I went to Jamaica to visit, his wife never remarried again.
Right.
She stayed a widow until she died.
Oh, that's such a sad
And
story.
I don't think he had any children either. So that's the story I was told. He
Mm-hmm.
wasn't meant to come, and he came because his wife impressed upon him to come, and he came and he died here. And nobody knows where he was buried. My dad came to find his grave, but
Couldn't
couldn't
find
find it.
it. No.
Yeah, and then when I went to Jamaica to visit, his house is on the main road, and his wife was there, and I was introduced to his wife, and she never got married again. She stayed single until the day she died.
Mm. And
Very
how old
sad
were they when
story.
they came? They came.
I think he was in his 30s,
Right. Okay.
probably. Tell you the truth, I would say he probably came in his 20s.
Mm. Most of them did, didn't they?
Yeah,
Right.
he came in his 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a big church man and stuff like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's quite a sad story. And have the family not been able to find his remains, his burial since, or
I would like to try to find that through maybe I don't know which part of London, maybe somewhere like Brixton or somewhere. I would like to
mm.
make it a quest to find out.
Yes, and your aunt, is she still alive or has she passed?
Yeah, his wife died long time ago.
Okay, right. So that's all. And there's no descendants to that. The story is, it's they're dropped
There's
out.
no descendants because he never had any children.
So that would be a challenge and finding the year for starters would be the thing. But so your dad came up to try and find this man who was his brother. What year did your dad come in? Do you know?
Probably 58
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
or 60. I can't put a finger on it, to tell you the truth.
No, but probably then. And your mum would have come a year or so after. Is it?
Yeah, in the 60s.
Okay. So 1960 or thereabouts, yeah. And where did they first move to? Where did they settle when they first arrived in the UK?
Brixton.
Brixton, okay. So he was in Brixton and she joined him there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, when he came to Brixton.
Okay.
Then he left and came to Reading, and that's how came to Reading.
Oh, right. Okay. So she came directly to Reading. Yeah. So do you know how they found sort of work and accommodation and that sort of thing in Reading?
Um, I'm just telling you some stories he told me. He
Mm.
stayed by this woman's house in the centre of Reading
Mm-hmm.
for a while, and he stayed there, and they shared a room, and his siblings used to live there, all in one room. I think at that time, my sister will be able to tell you better when you
Mm-hmm.
interview her. I think two of the siblings lived there in a shared room in a house.
Mm-hmm.
It was by this Jamaican lady. She had a big house in
Okay.
Reading, and he stayed. They rented a room from her.
So he was there and her other children were there as well. That's the siblings?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Right. So she had siblings and he
Two
was
children. Two children was there, and my mum and dad was there. So it's sort of like four people in a room.
mm-hmm. Or in one room.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So and I guess, do you know how long they were there before they found a way to move out? I mean,
I don't know the time, but I think he bought probably a house in the 70s, called 1970. So maybe
mm-hmm.
he was there probably, I don't know, maybe he was there in that particular house. He might have been in that particular house. I think he was there for a couple of years before he bought his own
Mm-hmm.
house. So I
Mm-hmm.
think he's moved. Prior to that, they moved around, but they
Yeah.
ended up that was their last location, and then they bought a house nearby. I think, yeah,
Okay. So with the lady renting a room, that was the last stop before he bought
his own property,
his
yeah,
own property. Yes.
and bought his first property in 1970.
Yeah, and that must have been a big deal because you know that what sort of work was he doing?
He's a builder.
He was a builder. Okay. Okay. And was there lots of demand for his work at
Yeah, he
the
was a
time?
carpenter. Yeah, there
Right.
was, but it was very cold. He said it was very cold and bitter on the building sites.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And how did he cope with that sense of, that coldness?
He just had to get on with it. Really, he had to wear his hat, woolly hat, and wrap up
Mm.
and just get on with it. Them days it was hard working on building site for men.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's hard. In when I did my apprenticeship, it was difficult. What I say is in the 1960s with all the racism, it must have been
Mm-hmm.
awful. It's bad enough in the 80s, but in the 60s, it must have been awful. But
Yeah.
he dealt with it. You know, there was a lot of racism,
Mm-hmm.
and but he just got on with it. I never used to see him in the morning. He's always left in the morning before I got up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just used to see my dad a little bit in the evening,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But on weekends, I had more time with him.
Yeah. Yeah. So he kept going. He kept showing up for work. He knew it would be a difficult day, but he still was, kept himself employed and kept going in
Yeah,
despite
yeah,
the difficulties. Yeah.
yeah. And then I think he had an injury at work. Something hit him in his head,
Oh,
and he got some compensation for that. My sister will be able to tell you more about that. And his eyes, something went in his eyes, and it just led to cataracts. Something.
oh goodness. Right.
So there
So
wasn't that much health and safety on building sites them days. And even now, you know, there's a bigger suicide. That's the biggest industry for suicides for men is the
really,
building industry.
right.
Yeah,
Oh.
still is. A lot of men commit suicide. The building game's a hard game. A lot of men just get down and kill themselves for some reason.
I'll look into that. But that's
Yeah,
the
look into that.
kind of the labor, the doing the physical, the people who do all the physical work
Yeah.
on the
Well,
side.
it's a lot of strain on your body as well, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if who wants to rush into that, you know, there's a lot of strain in your body, and hence a lot of people don't want to get into it. So a lot of people come from abroad and do that job because there's a lot of strain. You're on your knees all day. Some jobs,
Yes. Yeah.
no joke, is it? Your
No,
body
I.
will breaks up. You break yourself in pieces. I used to do it myself. Men
Mhm,
break themselves in pieces in them jobs. After a
mhm.
while, your body just it's just says I've had enough.
Yes, yes. And it's done in such a scale now. Everything is longer and bigger, and it's not just doing up your house and your mate's house. And it's very industrial, kind of doing huge,
Yeah.
huge kind of.
So that's what job he done, and he used to do the work around the house. He did it in Jamaica, and he came here and he done it.
Hmm. And that experience of racism, did that come out anywhere, at home? Was he sort of short-tempered or kind of broken at home, or was he a spiritual man? How did he kind of keep himself
My
together?
dad was a very spiritual man. My side of his side of the family is very spiritual.
Hmm.
Very spiritual. I think his sister was a bit of a seer back home.
Hmm.
In them days, they called them seers.
Right, that's
And that's what I'm telling you from what I've been told.
hmm.
And she would receive messages from God. And then she would go up to, in the West Indies, we have meeting places like the Crossroad, the Rum Bar area or whatever. There's always a place where people hang out, but we call it
Hmm.
Dyer's Crossroad. And she
Yeah.
would walk by that place and she would preach what God told her.
Hmm.
So if
Hmm.
she saw impending disaster, she would go and tell the people.
Right. Yes.
And she used to receive visions and dreams and stuff like this.
Hmm.
She
Yes.
came to your house and told you not to drink that water. Don't drink. She's one of them women.
Okay. So was
Yeah.
she the one who knew that, who said that his brother shouldn't come to England? Or
I don't know. I'm not too sure. It could have been. That's a good idea. It could have been.
Mhm.
But, my dad said that God told him not to come.
Okay. So it was direct, no
Yeah.
intermediary required.
Yeah. But they
Okay.
were spiritual. That's why the family is spiritual side of the family. They were quite spiritual people.
So that
Um,
that kept him going. And
yeah.
what did your mum do? Was she able to work outside the home, or what was she?
No, housewife.
She was a house from the beginning. Of course, she came married, so it was more.
Yeah, she did some work, but you can't have too much, loads of kids, man. So when
Mhm.
you have about 6 kids, you 4, 5, 6 kids, you can't do it. Can't go out and
Yes.
do a time job and do that. It's impossible.
So how many were there, six of you, did you say?
Yeah, about that.
Okay. About?
Some more scattered around.
Right.
Yeah, so
So,
six. I can tell you about the six.
right. And are those six your mum had?
Yeah,
Okay. So you got five siblings that you lived with.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And where are you in the order of things?
The youngest.
Oh, you're the youngest. Okay. Right. So that's them coming. Do you know anything about where they're left in Jamaica? Do you know anything about, you said you visited your uncle's wife who has since passed away, but were you able to find out more about the home that they left, the place they left, what that was like? Oh,
In terms of what would you like to know?
well, I guess it's kind of what they might have missed or what they were familiar with before they came to England.
Uh, um, repeat that question again. Sorry.
Well, in some ways, it probably doesn't matter because they didn't come seeking a better life. They came to look for your brother. Some people come for a better life because there were no
Well,
jobs
yeah.
available.
Well, my dad came. He did come for a better life,
Hmm.
but he also came to look for my brother. But the
Yeah.
first, because when he received the letter, I think I'm not too sure. I'm just adding bits in here, but maybe that spurred him into action to come and
Yeah.
get his shoe. Because if you receive a letter that your brother has died,
Hmm.
then he was going to come into England anyway, the mother country, because the call went out for the mother country, so he came.
Hmm. Hmm.
And a lot of people came, but when he heard his brother passed away, maybe that he had a good relationship with him. Maybe that spurred him on to come quicker.
Yes, that would
You
make
know,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. You
Yeah.
know, they came to the mother country. The cry
Mm.
went out.
Yeah. And did he have other siblings, or was that his brother? Was that his only kind of sibling that he
And I
had?
think he had three. I think there was three of them altogether.
Okay, so there's one other somewhere. Okay, so they came to Reading, they had the kids. What was it like for you and then they got a house. And then of course kids have to doctors, school, kind of a different culture to navigate, going to the GP and then finding a school. What do you remember? What stories have you heard about any of those things?
My mum never said much about it was difficult getting me into a school. I mean, I went to school and I suffered a lot of racism in school.
Mm,
Well, not in huge amounts, but in primary school, touching of the hair and go back, gollywog,
mm, mm,
it's called
mm.
me the gollywog,
Oh,
and
gosh.
go back to the jam jar, get back on the jam jar. So, well, anyway, they used to call you gollywog, yeah,
Mm,
or
mm,
wog, yeah,
mm, mm.
gollywog, and go back to the jam jar. So you have to jump back on the jam jar, literally. But you can't really jump on the jam jar because you won't fit, will you?
Yeah.
So they used to say all these kind of madness to us, you know. Um, and obviously want to touch my hair.
Yeah.
And the girls treated me much better
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in primary school. The girls always treated us. I got no qualms with the girls.
Mm-hmm.
They always treated us well. But the boys always gollywog. One guy used to call me skins, skins, skins. Stand there, skins. He used to say to me,
Uh-uh.
stand up against that wall, skins. Spread your legs, skins.
So was that a
And then
teacher?
I had to, huh?
Was that a
No,
teacher who said
no,
that?
kid.
Okay.
Kid used to do it. Skins, stand up there, skins. I never forget it. And then I
Mm,
had to stand like getting arrested. You put your hands on the wall and getting arrested,
right.
yeah?
Oh, I see. Okay.
And
Goodness.
you face the wall, hands up, skins. And then you have to put your hands against the wall. And then he would pat you down, skins.
Mm,
And then he said, then you look at your hands and he said, God forgot to spray your palms. You see, when he got to spraying you, he didn't spray
mm,
this part. You
mm-hmm,
understand? He forgot
mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah, because of course he didn't expect that, yeah, it looks like.
That's what he told me. When God was spraying me, he he forgot to spray my palm with my hands.
How
So
did you
anyway,
cope with that as a regular occurrence? How
all
did
the time, yeah, at the time it was awful all the time. And then I remember this guy called Jason. He was a bully as well, and I used to get bullied. One way I dealt with one boy. Um, I don't know what happened, came into me, but I punched that boy in his stomach.
mm,
One a mighty punch in his stomach, and it winded him.
mm-hmm,
And from that day, and I was just getting ready for the counter attack from him.
mm-hmm.
Wow, a punch is coming in my face now, and the punch never came, and he never bothered me again.
Right.
Taller
Yeah.
than me. I remember him being tall guy, taller
Mm-hmm.
than me, and I just punched him in the stomach, man. That stopped him. But the other bullies, I told my brother, it got to a point where it was just getting me down. They want to go to school,
Mm.
so I told my older brother who died. He's older than me, a couple of years older than me. He died in a police car chase.
Oh dear.
So I told my other brother, and that one said, "Okay, what time do you finish school?" And I said, this is what time I finish school. And then my brother tracked the guy, followed him,
Mm, mm,
and I never forgot. My brother said, "Is that him?" And I said, "Yeah, that's him." I was really worried by it,
mm,
and I didn't tell my dad. My dad would have said not to say do nothing because my brother was just a madman. And then my brother just said to him, gave him two slaps in the face, and
mm,
told him not to don't ever touch my brother again. And the guy started crying his eyes out when he got the second slap. And I felt sorry for the guy because he was crying.
mhm,
And that was it. He never touched me again.
mm. It's
Never
sad,
spoke
isn't
to
it,
me.
that violence has had the effect you desired, but it's sad that it had to come to that people
It
would
has to come to that
just leave you alone,
because they don't understand to leave you alone. Bullying you every day, skins and gollywog and, and all that kind of nonsense.
Mm. And how old were you at this time when this is primary
Probably
school?
7 years old or whatever,
7 or 8, yeah.
7 or 8.
Mm.
And two slaps in the face and it was all over.
Yeah, yeah. What year are we talking about for this? Is this?
probably in the 70s, 80s.
Late 70s, early
I would
80s.
say 70s, late 70s.
Late 70s, okay. You're like me, I think you don't want to give your age away. I understand.
Well, I don't really tell you the truth. I don't mind, but you know, you should never ask a man his age. You know this. But the thing is, it happened. I'm sure it happened probably 70 something. But honestly, I don't really know. I would say
Yeah.
79, 78 maybe. I
Mm-hmm.
can't even believe 78, 79. It sounds terrible. Sounds so far away. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know, 78, 79. But that was it. That was the turning point. After that, no more nonsense from him.
Yeah.
And then I realized, wow, I got a powerful weapon here. My brother just slaps him up. He doesn't ask questions. So that was good.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have a big brother. You need one like him because
Yes.
them days it was violent and violence answered. You have to answer violence with violence. It was just the way it was. And as a young black male, women didn't suffer it so much, but as a young black male, you got chased regular by skinheads. And the only thing they understood was violence. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
understand, stop chasing me with big boots on their feet and kicking you on the floor. They understood violence, and violence paid off.
Mm-hmm. It's a
It's
shame
just the way
that,
it
but
was.
as you say, that's how it was. Were
That's how
you
it was.
when you left primary school and did you go to secondary school in Reading as well?
Secondary school, yeah.
And what was that like? Was that because we're getting into, I presume, the
That was
80s
more.
now?
That was more mixed. You had your idiots there, but it was more mixed. You didn't have any racism there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But you had the problems between the islands.
Okay.
Jamaicans, Barbadians, Trinidadians, Vincies. Them people eat monkeys. They eat lizards. They eat rats. Whatever. This one eat this. This one doesn't eat anything. Don't marry this one. They eat monkeys. My dad went into great detail to tell me how Barbadian people eat monkeys. So, you know, and I
Mm-hmm.
now I know he just made it up. You know what I mean? Because
Mm,
when he explained it, it's just ridiculous.
mm,
But when I was a kid, yeah.
yeah.
But he was just joking. Now I know he was joking. By the time I thought he was serious.
Yes. So people had prejudging prejudice against each other's islands because they didn't know people didn't know each other's islands, I guess, is what.
Yeah. So you had that one. You didn't have much. You didn't. You had the racism. Maybe you might have racism from the teachers,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't as bad as primary school. Primary school was not good.
Mm, yes. And was it, did your parents have friends other Caribbean friends when they came? Did they have other people was there a community around you in Reading at the time?
It was a community.
Mm.
It was a lovely community.
Mm-hmm.
It's all
Mm.
gone now, but
So what was nice about it?
everybody knew everybody. All the black people knew everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew everybody. When you had a punch up with somebody, you know that person's family. Everybody knew everybody. And then you had to say, you couldn't pass a old black person and not say hello or good morning or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because they knew your parents.
Yes. So that.
Everybody knew everybody. There was no Africans. All the Africans you could count on one hand. You knew all the African people.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Mm-hmm.
the Jingoas, you know the Bohemis. You knew the Africans. You know the families. So the
Mm.
community, black community was tighter then.
Yeah.
You all went out, and we all had one common enemy, pronounce it.
Enemy.
Enemy.
Yeah.
Enemy, yeah. It
Mm-hmm.
was the skinheads,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not the mods, not the rockers,
Mm-hmm.
the skinheads, because they were NF, they were National Front, they were
Mm-hmm.
Zeke Heil, them guys. They would march and shout, Zeke Heil, Zeke Heil,
Mm-hmm.
niggas,
Mm-hmm.
niggas, niggas, out, 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 niggas,
And
niggas,
was that
niggas.
even in
Out, out.
Reading as well? Or was that
It was big in
mostly?
Reading. There's
Oh
some
wow.
areas, no-go areas, you could not go in Reading.
Okay.
Couldn't go to Whitley unless you grew up in Whitley, and you couldn't go to Coronation Square in Southcote because that's where they controlled it. And on the buses, Tyler's buses, loads of skinheads on the buses in Tyler's. You couldn't
Mm-hmm.
go Tyler's and be on the bus on your own in the evening. As a male, you get the hell beaten out of you.
Mm. Wow.
The only thing they understood was violence, and violence they got.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
That's
how it was.
something I never knew. I hadn't realized the National Front were in Reading. And
National Front was in Reading, you joking, big time. And there were skinheads. I nearly got beaten up by skinheads. I was an 11 years old boy.
gosh.
You couldn't go to, they had a pub called the Star Pub, and that was right behind the graveyard in town, called the George Hotel. They always used to hang around in the George Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, as a black male, you wouldn't want to be caught down there in town from skinheads. When you saw
Mm-hmm.
skinheads coming, you go the other way because they
Mm.
would always take you.
Yes.
We soon cleaned them up. The elders cleaned them up. Now the older boys used to clean them up. We had legendary guys in our community that used to beat the crap out of them. So in the end, the fight back came, and that's how it was. It was just the way it is.
Mm. And it's stopped after the people fought back.
Because, you get the upper hand. They get beaten. You get when people them days it was different. You get your beating, you get the message, and you stop.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it was in them days.
Yeah.
Punch in the mouth, that kind of attitude. It was
Mm-hmm.
that environment. It wasn't all this, it was people, knew if you knew something. It was a violent time. You
Yeah.
had skinheads, you had mods, you had
Yeah.
punk rockers, you have your gothics, but the
Mm.
mods, the punk rockers and skinheads, they're all fighting each other. And then you have the soul head. You had the black people on the other side. And
Mm.
they had and so you had, it was violent times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it
Mm-hmm.
was. It was like that. Tribalism.
Yes. Yes.
And you
And
navigate. And I know how it is to live in fear and get chased by skinheads. I know how it is to live frightened.
mm,
That's the
and
environment I grew up
how
in.
did you cope with that as a kind of when you're
Young
trying to
boy.
make plans and life decisions and how did that affect you?
Well, you have to plan. You have to think where you're going, not to go, how you're going to get there, and what you're going to, which areas you're going to avoid. You
Mm,
always have to look over your shoulder. That's
yeah,
how it was.
yeah, yeah. And I guess your parents would have been worried for you going out and all of that kind of, whenever their kids, you guys went out, they would be worried that you.
My dad, you said he used to carry knives when came here. He used to carry knives. And one day he got tackled by some teddy boys. Them days you had teddy boys, yeah?
Mm-hmm,
Teddy boys back in the day. And my
mm-hmm,
dad threw one knife, he reckons. But my dad used to tell tall stories, so you can't believe everything my dad used to say.
mm,
This guys confronted him and he threw one knife in the wall and it stuck in the wall or stuck in the door, wherever it stuck.
mm-hmm,
Like, boom. And
mm,
when that guy saw that, and then my dad had another knife to throw, the guy ran off, they ran off. And then my dad, when I sit back and think about these stories, I think, did he make these stories up? And then he was teaching my brother to throw knives. But my brother was getting too good, so he said he stopped teaching him.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, there's the stories that I grew up on.
Yes, yes. And
Yeah,
and you are here to tell them.
to tell them. But that's how it was in England, man. It was violent times. Makes
Yeah,
you strong, doesn't it?
it does it's it's very uncomfortable to hear, but it's violent now in different ways. So it's just
It was uncomfortable times, but the guys were strong, and a different generation, breed of people. We were a different breed of guys. We went through a lot of that. And then you had all the family issues, 8 people in a 3-bedroom house,
yeah.
sharing bedrooms, one bathroom, one kitchen. You had all them kind of issues.
And so that was when you were younger, with the just 6 of you and your parents. What was that like for you? I mean, you're the last as well. Were you the last to get into the bathroom?
I grew up that there was no room in the house, man, until somebody
Yes.
moved out. It's just the way
Yeah.
it is. One
Yeah.
moved out, one moved in.
And did you and your siblings get on because you were in the small space together, or were you always fighting, or were you kind of?
My dad had a policy: brothers and sisters should not fight.
Mm,
That was his policy.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So any fighting, in them days, they used to give you a belting. But I never used to get beat much. But there used to be people used to get beat in the house when there was a time for beating.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But my dad wasn't like that. He wasn't a man that take off his belt for no joke.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's ready, you take the belt off and you get a lashing. Well,
So it would be something quite serious that would make him do
yeah,
that.
bring the police to the door, you get a lashing.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing the police to the door, you get a beating.
And did anyone do that?
My brother was always in trouble with the police all the time, so he always used to get beaten.
Was he
The,
the older brother that came to help you sort out the kids at school?
the one who died, he's older than me.
Right.
When that came to sort that guy out, he was good like that. He sorts people out. You know, you don't want somebody 6'4" turning up on your doorstep, do you? He was 6'4" 5". He was well built. He bench pressed how many whatever 6'4", 6'5". He was a giant of a person. You know what I mean? And, you know, them days, being a big, tall black man like that, it's just a magnet for problems, troubles.
Mm.
People are jealous of you of your height, and then
Yeah.
people see you intimidating.
Mm.
You understand?
But
You
it
don't
sounds,
understand unless you're a black male and you're 6'4", how difficult it is.
sounds like he had a hard time just.
We had a hard time, but we don't know that. We don't understand. People don't understand how it is to be a tall in this kind of white environment. In the right different environment, yes, but in a white environment, 6'4", 6". I'm sure that man was 6'5", 6'4",
Mm.
6'5", and big guy. People just get intimidated. You don't even have to open your mouth. That's how it was them days.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
the image, you know what I mean? And there's just beat first and ask questions later.
Mm.
But you had to be violent them days because they were violent against us. So
So it seems to be the common theme, really. And so after your parents, so they had the 6 kids, they stayed together. Did they stay together? The
no, they divorced in the end. They split up in the end.
Okay. How old were you when they split?
Probably 7.
Okay, so did they stay in Reading or did they move
They
on?
stayed around
Mhm.
the place. It's a bit uncomfortable talking about it, but they stayed
Okay.
around the place.
Yeah, yeah. So you had access to both of them.
I had access to both of them,
Yeah.
as they call it now, co-parenting.
And suddenly now
That
there's
is,
two houses, I guess. Is it?
yeah, I didn't like it though because it's not nice, is it?
Mm.
As
Well,
a child, there's something that you feel. Well, I did. I felt something missing. You
mm,
got that kind of. You don't like it, but you just suck it up.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't like it. Deep down in your heart, you don't like it, but you bury it, don't you?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
Well, I
as the
did.
youngest, you would have felt it more than because you would have needed them more at a younger age.
That's right. It's a bit rotten, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Are they both still alive? Have they passed or
Oh, they're gone a long time.
okay? When did they die?
In the 90s, I think.
Okay. Mm.
90s.
And did they ever speak to you about their decision to come to England and settle in Reading?
They just wanted to come. The motherland gave out a cry and they came down to the motherland. My
Mhm.
dad saw, my dad saw people go to the go to the war when he was a boy, First World War or different wars, and they never ever came back to Jamaica.
Mhm.
But my dad, he said he never ever saw them come back. But and he came over here, to make a better life. But white people used to tell him, "Don't come." He said he used to work for Jamaican Sugar Company, and the man who was a white man and told him not to come to Britain.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I'm glad he came anyway.
You're glad he came.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Mhm.
100%.
You say more about that? Anything more about that?
Anything about him coming here?
Yes.
About
Oh, well,
well,
yeah.
the white guy who was his boss told him not to come, and he made a decision. He came when he was a boy. They came young. These guys came young. They
Yeah.
came from the West Indies young. They
20s or
came in their
something.
20s, man, and
Mm.
their early 20s, their late 20s. Some of them. Some came
Yeah.
when they was 19.
Mm.
You know, I was speaking to a
Yeah.
woman the other day. She came when she was 19.
Mm.
from Barbados on a boat. So, yeah, yeah. So he came, he answered the call. He came to England. They treated him bad. No blacks, no Irish allowed. You understand? That's what
Yeah.
he got. No
Yeah.
blacks, no Irish allowed, neither dogs. That's what they got. And he told me that story himself. I didn't hear that one.
Yeah.
And he found it hard to find accommodation. He struggled. And that's why black people had to stay with black people. And they formed their own banks called pardoners. You know, pardoner, don't you?
Partner, yeah.
Yeah. And that's our own little banks to
Mm.
survive. And that's how they saved up to buy a house. That's what the
Yeah.
story was.
Yes. No, that is that is the story. I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
And then we used to do pardoner and then things in the community, and that's how we used to get on. So we had the ability to have our own banks and stuff, you know. We had the ability. So they did that, and they saved up, bought his first house, and it was good, man. You know,
Yes.
laddie done. Yeah, good man. My dad was a good man.
He was a good man.
He was a good man, top class.
Yes. Yeah. It's nice that, for a son to respect and
When my mom left the family home, I tell you two things, and this is very personal, and I share this with you. When my mom left the family home when I was 7, between 5 and 7, and I was left there with my siblings, until the day my dad died, I never saw my dad bring a woman in that house.
Wow.
I never woke up in the morning, saw anybody in their nightie or nightgown or dresses and whatever. And I said, Dad, who's this? And Dad said, this is Belinda, whatever name they have them names. Never. And when I sit back and really think about it, and I asked my sister and I asked all my siblings, and I said to them, because it came into my mind the other night, and my dad never. So I never got up in the morning and saw other, but my mom was different.
Right. Yeah.
My mom had a few guys kind of coming around, sniffing around, and maybe 1 or 2 boyfriends. I didn't really like it when I was a kid. But my dad was never like that. My dad, I told you, as I said, his family was different.
Yes. Yes, of course.
When I think about these things, I'm not surprised how some of these boys grow up, because they see different men coming every so often in their house. And that does something to somebody's psyche. It does something to your mental health, man. I'm sure it does, because I didn't like it with my mom.
Yes.
Because them guys, they never ever stayed. You understand?
Yeah.
So I have to say to my dad, respect. Whether he had a woman on the side, he had his needs and whatever, like we all have our needs, and he went about his business in it, I don't really remember.
And do you think anything about their experience in England added some strain on their relationship, or do you think it was just who they are? They would have separated anyway.
All the pressure, kids having kids, loads of children, working, cooking, cleaning, having to bring them up, having to send money home to the West Indies like you do, like the Africans do now, and all the Filipinos or whatever. Nepalese people, I know they send money home to the family. Everybody's sending money home to Brazil or whatever. And they did the same thing. There's a lot of pressure. It adds pressure on the relationships and they can't survive it.
Yes.
Relationships cannot survive. Some do. I knew some in the community that their relationships went on until the end. And they were good people. But I will say, my mother used to still come around to the family house and cook soup on Saturday.
Oh, that's nice.
That was that kind of generation.
Yeah.
They were divorced, and she would still come around there, have an argument, and she would go home to her house. And then she said, I'm not coming back, and then blah, blah, blah. And then she came back, and same thing would repeat and repeat.
So she came and made sure you were fed for the weekend in some
just for, she would just come, sit down with my dad, smoke cigarettes. Then maybe they may have an argument, they might not. And then she would cook. She would come, she would cook. Them kind of people were different. They come, they cook. You understand?
It's a interesting halfway house, isn't it? You're sort of divorced but still connected in that way.
Connected
Through the children and the family home. Yeah.
And it was just normal for us to see it. Oh, mom's been around because the house is tidy up today or whatever. Oh, who's cooked? Is mom been here? Who's cooked some food? You know
Mm,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So it was just that was later on when I was older. You know what I
yes,
mean? So that
yeah.
was good. So, and I liked mom and dad being in the same house. I felt good as a child.
Yes,
I felt
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I always had that thing in my heart. Hopefully they get back together again, but never happened. But
No,
that's how I personally felt. That's how I personally felt. Ask my siblings; they will tell you something different, maybe.
yes. And that's, there are many kids who would like their parents to get back together. So that's, it's quite a common feeling if you
And it's
don't.
hard to handle all these emotions. It's
Mm,
difficult, life is very difficult, when then
yeah.
things happen. Handling all these emotions as a kid they either make you or break you.
And for yourself, do you think they've made you?
Well, I learned to manage because my dad got very sick, so I was his carer from an early age. But you learn to just
Mm-hmm.
deep. You dig deep and you dig deep and you find something that you thought was never there. And you dig deep and then that's how you cope.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got people, the elders in the community encouraging you that you got to bless you, whatever they will say, they got to bless you, whatever. But you dig deep and you find it, you know.
Yes, and with you looking after him, that must have been quite some sort of bond would have developed through
Yeah,
that, or
yeah,
stronger than it was maybe, or
yeah, definitely, definitely,
mm. And
definitely.
and do you have a faith in anything? Did he pass on his spiritual
Oh yeah,
approach to life?
I believe in the Almighty 100%. Because if it
Hmm.
wasn't for him, I wouldn't have coped. Some higher power had to be there to help me.
Yeah, yeah. So that
150%.
okay. So that's a definite yes.
No shadow of a doubt.
hmm Yeah. Okay. And how's that affected your life coming forward? Your parents came, they made some life, then they split. You helped nurse your dad and his.
My dad always used to say 5 years and he's going home. I only come for 5 years, he said. But I don't know how you only come from 5 years and you got kids that are sort of like 16. But he used to
That's
tell me, he used to
you.
say to he used to say to me, I only was meant to come here for 5 years.
Mm. And by then he'd been here over, well, 10.
Decade, 2 decades. Yeah,
20
until he
odd.
died. He's buried up there in the graveyard. But the thing is, and that's what happened. They came for 5 years.
Yes, they
I
did.
don't know why they all said 5 years, but that's what the plan was, 5 year plan.
Yes. Did he get a chance to visit before, in that time? Did he get to go home any
Yeah, I
time?
went home with him in 1989.
Uh-huh.
One of the best holidays, the first and the last I ever had.
First and the last. What do you mean by that?
I went with him to Jamaica. It was the first time I went with him on holiday and the last time.
Ah, right. Okay. So the only time you've been on holiday with your dad was Jamaica. And that was
I
how.
only remember I only remember running once with him in a race.
Mm-hmm.
Me, him, and brother, we had a race and I came last. My brother came first and my dad came second. I don't remember nothing after that. No
On
more
holiday.
racing.
This was on holiday. You did the
No,
race.
this is up in the streets.
This is another memory. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that I went with the West Indies with him and it was a great experience, the best ever.
Mm, yeah.
So it's good going with your dad because he's got money.
So you
Beautiful
you were
people.
that age where you needed somebody
Yeah,
to
it was
buy stuff.
lovely. It was lovely.
Yes. And so did he go back to the place where him and your mom came from? Did you kind
Yeah,
of
we went back to the village.
mm,
Saw my uncle, stayed at
hmm
my uncle's house, and it was a great laugh.
hmm.
My sister came and cooked every day.
That's
Yeah, it
nice.
was good. Mm.
Yes. I won't get into the women and cooking thread that's happening here. I'll just leave that. This is not the point of the interview.
She was glad
Mother
to see
comes to
my
cook, your sister comes to cook, men can't cook. It's just I'll just
no,
leave that there then.
well, that's how it was, isn't it? My dad's come from England. You ain't seen him for God knows how many years. You know, you just want to, that's how it is.
Mhm.
That's how it was. That's how
Yeah,
she was anyway.
right.
She's
Yes.
like that. Even if I turn up now, she's going to be down there cooking.
And that was his sister, your aunt, is that right?
No, that was my sister.
Your sister, his daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Yes. And so did you have another visit after that?
Yeah, I had many visits after that,
Many
but not
visits?
with him.
No. Okay. And so are they both buried in England, your parents?
Yeah, they're both buried now. They're both
Right.
expired, as they say in India. Expired.
Um, you say it however you need to say it to make it feel
Yeah.
okay. So, and what about for you? Do you still visit Jamaica, or does Reading feel like the place for you? Your parents are buried
I
here.
mean, I haven't been in Jamaica for years. I was working in India for a long time. So when
Mm.
I'm in India, I just was in the East. So when
Hmm.
I'm in the East, it doesn't make sense to come back and go on holiday. You
No.
just stay in the East. You go to Malaysia or make your stay in Goa or go to Thailand or whatever. So
Hmm.
that's why I haven't been back because I was working in India for a long time.
Yes. Yes. With other places to go on holiday, definitely. Which sounds
Yeah,
also
well,
sounds.
I'm in that area, and this one thing leads to another, and
Hmm.
and then is you ain't got loads of money to be flying all around the place. So I'm in India, and if I'm in India and I'm working and I finish, I might well just stay there and
Hmm.
spend a couple of weeks.
Yes, yeah. And do you have any like your parents' line? Have you got descendants or their grandkids that they knew about, or there's six of you, so I guess there might be
Yeah,
some
there's all
grandkids.
loads of grandchildren.
Yeah. Um,
My brother might be able to tell you a bit more because he's older than me.
mm,
We could interview him or my sister.
yeah.
I remember
It's
her.
yes. Have you got any children?
Huh? So,
Do they have any grandkids through you or just through the other siblings?
no, I've got one daughter.
Right, okay. Is your daughter in the country? Does it feel like
Yeah,
you're yeah, okay.
yeah. Not been to the West Indies yet, but
Right.
I'm going to take her to Jamaica. Yeah, so she can know where her parents came from, her
Mm-hmm.
grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, and it's lovely, lovely, lovely up there.
Yes, yes.
You feel like you belong. You know.
Yeah. So what have I not asked you about? I'm trying to think. We haven't asked I didn't you mentioned socials, but we didn't talk about dances or whether they had people, what socials or hobbies they had, or whether there was no time for that when
Yeah,
you were a
yeah, we
child.
have used to have dances in our house
Mm-hmm.
on a regular basis, not every week, but
Mm.
growing up as a boy, they used to come around and drink in the living room, and play reggae
Yes.
music, a bit of home music,
Yeah.
reggae. It was lovely because the elders used to come and they used to give me money.
So that was quite nice for you.
Yeah, and then you're the youngest, and they give you 10 pence, 20 pence, a lot of money, 50p.
Mm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know how
Mm-hmm.
much sweets you can buy with 50 pence back in them days? Joking, man. A lot of money. So I used to love it. And my
Yeah,
dad used to, when he used to drink, he was a happy man. You could get all the money out of him.
he was a happy drinker.
Yeah.
Some people
Happy
are
man.
not.
And yeah, we used to have all these things around our house. They used to play the reggae music on the radiogram, the usual gram. Nobody could touch it, all them
Hmm.
things. And then,
Hmm.
play his music and with his records, and everybody used to dance and drink and talk about back home, and you understand, like that, and reggae music, and it was good, man. And
Yeah.
then you go in as a kid, and then you peek through the keyhole and you go in there and get money, and yeah, it's lovely.
Yes. Yeah. And did he continue to have those gatherings after your mum left?
I can't remember, to be honest
Right.
with you.
Okay.
Yes, he did. He used to have
Yeah.
his friends come round,
Mm.
and but it's not as good as when your parents are together and having it.
Mm.
Them days you did that. You had social gatherings in your house.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
it was. in them days,
Yeah.
and dance, dance parties. Everybody used to have a party in your growing up. Everybody used to be having parties in their houses. Used to be a
Mm-hmm.
lot of parties I used to go to as a youth. Um, it was called blues them days, blues.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
all the guys would go to blues and you listen to reggae music, which links you to the mother country, you know?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
sort of 60s and 70s, I guess, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
70s and 80s.
And it.
Yeah, so yeah, and then, so that, yes, we used to have a lot of that stuff around our house. Nice time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about food? Are there kind of foods that your parents would say this, do when you said mom come and cook, are there special Caribbean dishes she do, Jamaican dishes, or did she do
Well,
a
every Saturday
mixture?
was soup day, wasn't it? Growing up, traditionally, soup in a
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean home.
Mm-hmm.
Yam, dumplings, neck of lamb, which is
Mm-hmm.
very expensive. Neck of lamb, dumplings, pumpkin, you know what I mean? Yam,
Mm-hmm.
banana, usual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, big pot of soup.
Right. Yes.
And then your biggest problems would you get enough dumplings? There was never enough dumplings. It's just the way it is. It's just life, isn't it? Never enough dumplings.
That's something the title of a book. I,
Yeah,
I feel I
it's
should write
never
that
enough.
book.
You should. Never enough dumplings, man.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
never enough dumplings, mate, in life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was the biggest problem.
So she would do,
Yeah,
so that would be the Saturday kind of traditional home
yeah.
cooked kind of
Them
meal.
days was good, man. Them
Mm.
days you knew what. Nowadays confusing. Them days Saturday is dump soup day. Sunday is rice and peas and chicken. Through the
Hmm.
week, that's whatever. Fridays was takeaway.
Right. Yes.
People were slimmer and fitter in my time in the 80s. We were
In the
slim.
80s.
Yeah, we were
Yes.
fit, man. We didn't eat all this they're eating now. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
Takeaway was once a week.
Hmm.
You understand?
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Not every day, every night, pizzeria and this and that and pizza. They don't know, nobody know what pizza was and all these kind of things. Now you can order every day. Somebody's knocking on the next door. No, once a week, Friday only. They were fitter back in the 80s.
Yes, yes, back to some limits, isn't it? So
Yeah.
how are you with going forward and the sort of Windrush legacy and being a parent and you passing on something to your daughter and just how you
I think it needs to be kept up. I think we need to do more about it because lest they forget, my daughter forgets. But I want my daughter to come with me to the West Indies,
Hmm.
those islands, Jamaica and St. Vincent. And obviously, my daughter's been told many stories of from her nanny on my wife's side about her journey to England and what they face when they come here. My
Hmm.
wife can tell you about that because she did a exhibition, exhibition at her workplace,
Okay, okay, yes.
which a lot of people didn't know about. That because it's up there, it's predominantly white up there, and they don't know a lot of that history. Their head office, Green Park.
Okay, one of the companies in Green Park.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But anyway, so yeah, so she could tell you her story.
On her side, her mom, her parents' side. So that might be interesting for this as well. So maybe we'll exchange those details afterwards if she's happy to. That would be nice. Okay, so you're hoping to pass on as much as you can to your daughter and you think remembering the journey that the ancestors took, the 1940s, 50s, 60s is a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Mm, great.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a good thing. You have to
yeah.
remind them because we contributed a lot to this to empire,
Hmm.
to the country.
Yes. Yes.
And I liked, and I'm glad they got Windrush Day because otherwise it would have been forgotten.
It would have been, and there's so many reasons why it came to be, but it's nice that it does exist. So that, as
Yes,
you say,
very,
so it's
very
point
good.
to remember.
Yep,
Anything
you got to remember
else?
it.
Okay. Is there anything else
No,
you'd like to say before we kind of wrap up
no,
for today?
that'll do for today. If anything else comes to your mind, let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you
All right,
so much. And
no problem.
yeah, thanks. Okay. Bye.
Yeah, listen, take care.